Krypton Factor tonight. Paul Glasby, age 28. He's an air traffic controller from Sherland in Derbyshire. He plays golf and also likes photography and sea fishing. Ross Wright is 30 years of age, a systems analyst living in Poole. His interests are tug-of-war, music and ecology. Ian Parley, age 33, a retail store manager in Exeter, who likes squash, DIY and antique prints. And Jim O'Neill, 22 years old, he's a medical student living in Glasgow. He enjoys swimming, water polo and skiing. And here is your host, Gordon Burns.
Good evening and welcome to Heat 7 of the Krypton Factor. 4 more contestants, all of them men tonight, ready to do battle for a place in the semi-finals. We know who makes it after 5 of the toughest possible tests. And we begin with the first of them, mental agility. In a few moments, the contestants will see 9 pictures of World War II leaders. Underneath each picture will be a series of numbers which correspond to the 26 letters of the alphabet. So 1 equals A, 2 equals B, 3 equals C, and so on. A voice will tell the contestants the name of each leader, but on only 4 occasions will the numbers actually spell out that name. And naturally, we want the contestants to select those 4. Contestants, will you now please turn and face your screens? We will give you first an example, followed by the actual test.
For example, de Gaulle, 4, 5, 7, 1, 21, 12, 12, 5.
And that's correct. Those numbers correspond with the letters that make up the word de Gaulle. Now, contestants, watch your screens carefully. Which 4 of these 9 tests are correct?
Number 1, pattern, 16, 1, 20, 20, 16, 14. Number 2, Tedder, 20, 5, 4, 4, 5, 19. Number 3, Hitler, 8, 9, 20, 12, 5, 18. Number 4, Molotov, 13, 15, 12, 15, 20, 15, 22. Number 5, Rommel, 18, 16, 13, 13, 5, 12. Number 6, Churchill, 3, 8, 21, 18, 3, 8, 9, 12, 12. Number 7, Stalin, 19, 20, 1, 13, 9, 14. Number 8, Truman, 20, 18, 21, 13, 1, 14. And number 9, Bradley, 2, 18, 1, 5, 12, 6, 25.
That's it, contestants. And that shouldn't have given them too much trouble, but I can see a few different choices on their indicator panels. Let us now check, though, the actual answer. These are the 4 that they should have spotted.
Number 3 was correct. The numbers correspond to the letters that spell Hitler. Number 4 was correct. The numbers correspond to the letters that spell Molotov. Number 6 was correct. The numbers correspond to the letters that spell Churchill. And finally, number 8 was correct. The numbers correspond to the letters that spell Truman.
So, 3, 4, 6, 8, the sequence we're looking for. Let's check them. Paul, you've gone for 2, 5, 8, 9, which is 1 right and 2 points. Ross Wright's gone for 1, 3, 5, 6, which is 2 right and 4 points. Ian Parley, 3, 4, 5, 8, almost there, 3 right and 6 points. And Jim O'Neill, 3, 4, 6, 8, and that's all correct, so he gets 8 points plus a bonus 2, giving him 10 altogether. We enter all those points now into the scoreboard, and at the end of the first round, the leader quite clearly with a maximum Krypton Factor of 10, from Glasgow, Jim O'Neill. And we now move into the round which tests the fitness and courage of our contestants as we put them through their paces on the assault course. Now, with an all-male lineup, our age handicap system dictates that all of them will start within 8 seconds of each other, so it should be very exciting right from the very start. And we join them now on the starting line where they know exactly how tough the task ahead is.
The obstacles that will give me the most problem are the scramble nets, because they tend to be very loose and if you're climbing up them and someone's beside you, you seem to get thrown about all over the place.
One of my first impressions of the course was I thought that the only three things that were missing was a guillotine, someone stood at the top of a rope ladder with some burning oil, and a pit with some stakes in it. That was my initial impression.
Take your mark.
Ian Parley from Exeter starts first, followed almost immediately by Ross Wright, then Paul Glasby, and fourth is the Scot Jim O'Neill. So all four of them in the race now.
Come on. Well done, that's the way. Come on.
Ian Parley nicely over the rope swing and into the pipes, and as he goes in, so Paul Glasby goes into the pipe nearest to us. They'll emerge together, Ian Parley on the far side, Paul Glasby in the red tracksuit nearest us, then Ross Wright, then Jim O'Neill. Onto the high balance, and important that they don't hesitate at the end here. They go straight over, just as Paul does, and Ian Parley straight over as well. Onto the cargo net. And that's how to do it by Paul Glasby, to land on the pole and not in the net. And that's not how to do it by Ian Parley. He just flung himself into the net, and you can see how long it's taking him to get upright and find his footholds. Interesting the techniques the contestants develop in their day of practice. That's a pull-along style by Paul Glasby, which serves him very well indeed. Now, you may have heard the army shout at Paul there that if he gets to the top of the scramble net first, he'll win the race. That's a theory some of the soldiers have. Jim O'Neill here could prove them wrong. That's quite a leap up the scramble net. That's one way of getting up it.
Come on, keep going now, keep going.
Nice flip over the top by Paul, and Jim will have to match that to stay in contention. But look right to the back now in the blue tracksuit to Ross Wright. He seems to be injured. He grasps that ankle, he winces. I think he did it after the tram wires in the jump, and he's in a lot of pain, but continuing because he has to finish to get any points at all, but he's right out of it. Bad luck for him. And Paul heading for the last obstacle. Jim O'Neill coming to the water. And that's a huge leap across the water. That will make up a few seconds for him. Paul into the Burma rope bridge. And having some trouble with it, he's making no progress at all there. Although Jim is scooting across it as though it's not there, onto the platform and hands into the loops, and he's coming down now ahead of Paul Glasby. Paul coming off first. And the soldier giving Paul a real ticking off for being so slow across the rope bridge, which allows Jim O'Neill to win the race. And Paul comes through in second place. Ian Parley coming down. Ross Wright is still running in great pain further down the course, but here comes Ian Parley, who recently ran in the Exeter Marathon, but as he comes up this 30-yard hill, it looks as though he would rather run another marathon than do another Krypton Factor assault course. He's very tired indeed. Very hard-won points indeed, and the maximum 10 go to the man who started last but finished first, Jim O'Neill. Then Paul gets 6 points, Ian 4 points, and Ross, who pulled ligaments halfway down the course but went on to finish it, gets 2. Now we add all those points in to the totals from the first round on the master scoreboard, and with 2 rounds gone, still the leader and still with a maximum Krypton Factor now of 20 is the medical student from Glasgow, Jim O'Neill. And so to intelligence and a test of strategic assembly. The contestants are confronted with a large letter X into which they have to place 26 red triangular dominoes. Along the edges of the dominoes in Roman numerals are the numbers 1, 2, or 3. The contestants must place the dominoes into the X in such a way that adjacent sides have matching numbers. So contestants, the test starts now. There are 22 triangles in all, which fit together in the same style as dominoes, which is why they're called trominos. All but 4 of them have the numbers 1, 2, and 3 on the sides, and the odd ones are made up of 2, with 2 1s and a 2, and 2 of them with 2 1s and a 3. Now don't forget the adjacent sides must have the same numbers. Now, getting to the critical point at the centre of the X. The two pieces which are placed there will be the only pieces where all three sides have to be matched. And Paul Glasby there doing very well, as is Ross Wright. This is being done in a very fast time indeed. And it looks like we're going to have a winner very shortly. Paul Glasby has, I think, two pieces to fit in. The air traffic controller does it, wins the round. Paul Glasby. He's just checking in there, but running my down them, they are all correct, and he wins it. And Ross Wright from Poole in Dorset is second. And not far behind him is Ian Parley. One more to go in, and he's all correct as well. Very fast times indeed, and in the tightest of finishes, the coolness of the air traffic controller counted, and Paul Glasby therefore gets 10 points. Ross gets 6, Ian 4, and Jim 2. Let's feed all those points then into the master scoreboard, which closes it up considerably. Indeed, into second place now with 18 goes Derbyshire's Paul Glasby, but still in the lead, a reduced lead with a Krypton Factor of 22, is Glasgow's Jim O'Neill. And all very much to play for now as we go into round 4, the observation test. Coming up is an excerpt from the feature film Victor Victoria, starring Julie Andrews. Questions, of course, to follow. But contestants, will you please now turn and face your screens? Here comes that clip.
I thought maybe you had a dog.
Dog?
I've only been gone 5 minutes. I figure something helped you eat it.
Delicious.
You want a salad?
Later.
Later.
Chicken was so good, I thought I might try the pork. Does it take long?
About half an hour.
What about the bœuf bourguignon?
That's ready.
I'll have that, and I'll have the salad after.
You realize, of course, you're entitled to 2 salads.
Could you put them both on one plate?
That's possible.
Terrific. Delicious wine.
Maybe you'd like to choose your 2 desserts. Apple flan and coupe jacques might go well together.
Just a small copy. Good evening. I had the pleasure of hearing you sing this afternoon.
Oh, you must be mistaken. I haven't sung in about 2 weeks.
Your audition at Chez Louis.
Oh, that was not singing, and I would hardly call it an audition.
I used to work there.
My condolences.
I'm also Carol Todd. Toddy to nearly everybody who knows me.
Victoria Grant.
I hope we meet again when I'm flesh.
Won't you sit down? Please. Have dinner with me. If all goes well, I expect to leave here poor, but sated. I have a bug in my purse. At the appropriate moment, it goes in my salad.
It'll never work.
A bug in my salad?
In a place like this, it would be an event if there wasn't a bug in your salad.
That's it. Turn to the front, please, contestants. 2 questions for each of you and worth 2 points each, starting with yours, Paul. When the waiter first approached Victoria's table, what did he have in his right hand?
A bottle of wine.
No, it was a bottle opener. What was Carol Toddy, ordering when he first saw Victoria? It was...
A salad.
No, it was a small coffee. Afraid you don't score there, Paul. On to Ross. When the waiter was taking Carol Todd's order, what was the man in the background doing?
He was a waiter disposing of...
No, he was getting his coat and hat on to leave. How long did the waiter say the pork would take?
Half an hour.
Correct, 2 points. On to Ian. At the very beginning of the clip, what was on the shelf at the front of the serving area?
A bowl.
No, it was a stack of cups, plates and saucers. What was the first dessert Victoria was offered? Must have an answer.
Crepe shack.
No, it was apple flan. On now to Jim. By the coat stands, there was a picture on the wall. What else was hanging on the wall?
Clock.
Is right, 2 points. What was Victoria's surname?
Grant.
Correct, 2 points, and you get the maximum 4. Now 4 more questions, each one to be answered by the first contestant to buzz. 1 point if you get it right. If you get it wrong, though, it's immediately open for any other contestant to answer. Are you ready? Here we go. How many people were there on the tables directly behind Victoria's? Paul?
3.
No. Ross?
2.
Correct, a man and a woman, 1 point. What did the waiter say he was looking for under the table? Paul?
A dog.
Correct, 1 point. Now remember the lady diner. How many mouthfuls of food did we see her take?
1.
Correct, 1 point. Where was Victoria's audition held? Ross?
Chez Louis.
That is correct, and that in fact completes the first section of this 2-part round. Now on to the identity parade, and for any contestant who can pick out a character from that film clip, an extra 2 points. Cast your minds back to the restaurant scene when Toddy ordered a cup of coffee from the waiter, who was wearing evening dress and a white wing collar. But it's that waiter we want them to pick out. And naturally, we have a lineup of 9 waiters, all similarly attired. Which one was in the film clip? So stand by, contestants. Will you press the number, please, now? Now let's check them. Paul has gone for number 7 in the lineup. Let's have a look at number 7. That's the choice of Paul Glasby. Ross Wright goes for someone different. He says number 4. With number 4, step forward, please. Ross's choice. Ian Parley agrees with Paul Glasby and says it is number 7. And Jim O'Neill picks someone different. He says it's number 1 in the lineup, so let's look at him. There we are. Well, 2 of them said number 7. The other 2 went for different people. Let's find out if anyone's picked up the points, as we ask the waiter in that film to make himself known to the contestants. Now, please. And number 4 it is, in real life, actor David Gunt. So, Ross Wright from Poole in Dorset, the only man to pick out the waiter. He gets the extra 2 points, but let us now feed all the points won in that round into our master scoreboard. Don't forget there's just 1 round to go. And in fact, Jim O'Neill has slightly stretched his lead now. He's in the lead with a Krypton Factor of 26. Jim has led from the very start. Can anyone catch him as we go into the last round, general knowledge, the one that will decide it all, and there are still plenty of points available. It comes in 2 sections, 3 individual questions, followed by a minute and a half of open questions. Right, let us start with your set of 3, Paul. Which sport governed by the FITA uses the terms York Round, Hereford Round and Bristol Round? An answer, please. Which sport?
Rowing.
No, archery. Who wrote the plays Sweet Bird of Youth and A Streetcar Named Desire?
Tennessee Williams.
Correct, 2 points. In which year was the Easter Rising in Dublin, leading eventually to the independent Irish Republic? The year was?
1912.
It's close, but not close enough, I'm afraid. It was 1916. On to you, Ross. Who won the men's 200 metres breaststroke in the Montreal Olympics in 1976? An answer, please.
David Wilkie.
David Wilkie's correct. Who wrote the plays An Enemy of the People and Peer Gynt?
Ibsen.
Correct, another 2 points. Which island was colonised in 1790 by the mutineers from the Bounty and women from Tahiti?
Pitcairn Island.
Correct, 2 points. You get the maximum 6 there. Well done. Now, Ian, how many players are there in a basketball team on court at one time?
6.
No, 5. The author of the novels Pamela, Clarissa Harlowe and Sir Charles Grandison died in 1761. Who was he?
No idea.
Samuel Richardson. Who killed the Greek warrior Achilles by shooting him in the heel with an arrow?
No idea.
The answer is Paris. On now to you, Jim. John Joe O'Neill, no relation I hope, and John Frankham are past champions of what sport?
National fundraising.
Correct, 2 points. On which original book was the musical film of Half a Sixpence based? And I can tell you the author was H.G. Wells. The original book?
Can't remember.
Kipps. Which Saxon nobleman led local opposition to the Normans after the invasion of 1066?
No idea.
It was Hereward the Wake. Right, well now to the final buzzer section, the climax to this contest. The first contestant to buzz gets a point if he's right, but if he's wrong, a point is deducted from his score. So, are you ready on the buzzers, contestants? We start now. In transport, what do the initials HGV represent? Paul.
Heavy goods vehicle.
Correct, 1 point. England football international Laurie Cunningham left West Brom to play Jim.
Real Madrid.
Correct. In America, what does a realtor sell? The answer is real estate, houses or property. Who was the first English king of the House of Tudor? Jim.
Henry.
Henry the what?
First.
No, the 7th. You lose a point. One of the 7 wonders of the world was the Pharos of Alexandria. What's a Pharos, Jim?
A lighthouse.
Correct. You get your point back. Which corporation control the lighthouses of England? Paul.
Trinity House.
Correct. Which British driver was 3 times winner of the world? Jim.
Jackie Stewart.
Correct. The Stewards' Cup and the Sussex. Paul.
Horse racing.
Now, I was going to ask where they run. The answer's Goodwood. You lose a point. What series did Sir Henry Wood begin at the Queen's... Interrupted by Ian.
Promenade concert.
Correct. In mythology, what did Prometheus steal from the gods to give to... Jim.
Pandora's box.
No, fire. Which gas, called fire damp, forms explosive mixtures with air? Jim.
Nitrogen.
No, methane. You lose a point. Which Thane of Cawdor and of Glamis? Ross.
Macbeth.
Correct. Which English spy fled to Russia with Donald Maclean? Ian.
Kim Philby.
No, Guy Burgess. Lose a point. With which sport do you And that is the end of the round and indeed the contest. And the winner tonight with a Krypton Factor of 28 is the 4th-year medical student from Glasgow, Jim O'Neill. And our warmest congratulations to Jim, who led from start to finish. So at the end of the day, he won it by the skin of his teeth with Ross Wright and Paul Glasby in hot pursuit. But now, from all of us, can we say good night? Hope to see you next Monday night. Good night.
Since this programme was recorded, the winner, Jim O'Neill, has been invited by the Medical Research Council to work at their laboratories in the Gambia, West Africa. This means that his place in the semi-final will be taken by tonight's runner-up, Ross Wright.
Yes, it's a great shame. There were 2 things I wanted to do in 1982. One was the Krypton Factor, and the other was this chance to study in Africa. Unfortunately, I'll have to bow out at this stage, but I do wish Ross and all the other contestants the very best for the rest of the series.
The Krypton Factor continues next Monday at 7 o'clock.
I can see you all now.
We searched everywhere, Mum. Every field and copse and ditch.
Say good night and off up to bed with you, child. Giles will go with you.
Good night, Mum.
And no more dreaming. I forbid it.
Good night, Oliver.
Good night, my boy.
Poor child. His short life has been so full of terrors.
But believe. That Lucas froze 100 paupers dead.
Oh, well. Are you going to sit there snoring all day?
I shall sit here as long as I think proper, Mum.
I'm not saying it can't afford it. What
well
I'm
said.
saying is that the people who have to pay take a very critical attitude to how their money's being
I
spent.
think this is right.
And now it's the majority who are paying.
Yeah, I think this is right, and I think that it's very important to phrase it that way as a problem of political education, one might.
I tell you how I first met your mother.
If she was my mother, Comrade General.
You judge. I picked my brother up, literally picked him up on a Moscow street. He had a fourth-class ration book and he was undernourished. He didn't seem to mind that or anything. I thought he was a happier man than me. He suffered me to buy him a new suit and to get him a job at his old hospital. I saw him off for his first day's work. This was 8 years after he and Lara parted.
So he never saw her again?
Thank you. You've been very kind to me. He must have known how ill he was. The walls of his heart were like paper, but he kept it to himself. He kept a lot to himself. I was astonished at the extent of his reputation. His work was unobtainable at the time. It was disapproved of by the party. But if people love poetry, they love poets. And nobody loves poetry like a Russian.
Excuse me, comrade. Are you Yevgraf? My name is Lara.
I knew her name from the Lara poems, which I'd found among my brother's manuscripts.
I knew your brother. I need your help.
She'd come to Moscow to look for her child. I helped her as far as I could. But I knew it was hopeless. I think I was a little in love with her. One day she went away and didn't come back. She died or vanished somewhere in one of the labor camps. A nameless number on a list that was afterwards mislaid. That was quite common in those days. Tonya, how did you come to be lost?
We were running in a street.
We?
My father.
Not your father, Komarovsky.
I don't know. The street was on fire. There were explosions and the houses were falling down and he let go of my hand. He let go of my hand. And I was lost.
Father had done that?
Oh, yes. People will do anything.
It was Komarovsky. This man was your father. Why won't you believe it? Don't you want to believe it?
Not if it isn't true.
That's inherited.
Comrade General, when I was a child, I wanted parents. You can imagine how I wanted parents. I wanted to die when I was a child. You know? Now, I don't know. I can't be of any use to them now, can I?
I was hoping I might be of some use to you. Will you think about it?
Yes. It's all right, David.
You work here?
Yes, Comrade General. I'm an operator.
And what do you operate?
That.
You've promised to think about it. Tonya, can you play the balalaika?
Can she play? She's an artist.
An artist? Who taught you?
No one taught her.
Ah. Then it's a gift.
ITV, the special season continues. Programs for Monday night. And at 6:30, the Krypton Factor, another round of TV's toughest quiz.
And that must have hurt.
The search for Superperson continues at 6:30. And another search begins in Coronation Street at 7 o'clock.
Have you found him?
Well, we're looking, look. There's a lot of people looking for him.
Well, in Galia.
Well, we haven't told her yet, dear. We thought that...
Not told her? But she's his mother, for God's sake.
At 7:30, World Cup 82, the first evening game from Phase 2. Poland, winners from Group 1, take on Group 3 leaders Belgium in their opening bid to qualify for the semi-finals.
Tremendous space here, but Kerrikas is in there. Still Kerleman's got a great chance. And a goal!
Poland versus Belgium, live only on ITV at 7:30. And with news at 10:15 and World in Action at 10:45, these are programmes for Monday night on ITV. Pattern B in TV Times.
Love and marriage,
Craft and salad go together like a love.
It takes Kraft's rare skills to create a creamy, smooth blend that richly complements the taste of fresh, crisp salad. Kraft coleslaw dressing and salad.
You can't have one, you can't have one, you can't have one without the other.
That's Kraft.
Look, chaps, while the family's out of the room, a quick word about this remarkable new video from those awfully nice cinemas.
May I miss the beat, then?
Oh, sorry.
You stalled you get?
Didn't.
Well, you have told them, see if you can get one there.
Yeah. Actually, don't know. No, probably not.
Yeah, we'll have this going.
Yeah.
When you're looking for a new car, you don't want vague offers, you want a specific promise. With Talbot's drive-away deal, you get just that. Cars at exceptional prices with no on-the-road extras to pay. Take the Solara. Up-to-the-minute engineering, front-wheel drive, independent suspension all round, at an unbeatable drive-away price of just $3,995. And remember, Talbot dealers are picking up all the extras, so delivery, number plates, 6 months road tax, and a full tank of petrol come absolutely free. And drive-away deals apply to all Solaras, Alpines, and Horizons. So visit your Talbot dealer for his very special drive-away deals.
Trust card comes in handy.
Has now appeared on these lights, so these are connected to John's keyboard. So that's the input to the combinational element. Now this white bit of the diagram represents the combinational element.
of a frequency distribution plot. This is a frequency distribution plot of pedestrian arrival times, the arrival time against the frequency. This curve is our random arrival curve for this distribution, for this data. As you see, it is a fairly good fit.
And that backs up your assumption about random arrival?
Yes, for this data.
What about the other suppositions you've made? For example, the one about good behaviour. What does your film show there?
Yes, well, we observed that about 50% of pedestrians misuse the crossing. But this can easily be taken into account in our simulation model, which we haven't done at the present time.
How would you take account of it?
Well, an easy way of looking at it, if you like, is if the delay caused by the pedestrians and the vehicles is not very significant, if they're crossing within about 50 metres of the crossing. And we could say, right, instead of, say, 200 pedestrians arriving per hour, we would just look at 100 pedestrians arriving per hour if 50% of people misuse the crossing.
So you've got a frequency distribution plot of arrival times. How do you then convert that into delay times?
Well, the distribution that we have assumed, or we could take any type of distribution, is fed into our simulation model, and out of it we get the delays to the pedestrians and the vehicles and the queue lengths of pedestrians and vehicles according to what pelican we'd like to look at.
And what were the main conclusions you were able to draw from this output?
Well, we've looked at the case where a zebra would be replaced by a pelican.
That's this DOE curve.
Yes, we've costed vehicle delays and pedestrian delays and taken a certain ratio of both. We took a total cost. This shows the pedestrian flow against the vehicle flow. And this is the DOE recommendation. In this area you would have a zebra, and in this area you'd have a pelican. These are our curves depending upon which ratio of cost that we take, pedestrian to vehicle.
I see each of these corresponds to an assumed ratio between vehicle delay costs and pedestrian delay costs.
That's right, yes.
And as the vehicle delay cost is regarded as more and more valuable, then this criterion moves down. But all of these curves are well above, the division between pelican and zebra zone are well above the DOE curve.
That's right. This concludes that I think that where DOE would say put a pelican in this zone here, we would put a zebra.
So we have two very different models based upon rather different assumptions. Nikki assumes a uniform rate of arrival during any given cycle of both pedestrians and vehicles, but she allows for the fact that people take different lengths of time to cross the road, and that some people cross when they have a chance, even when they have a red signal against them. On the other hand, Carol assumes a random rate of arrival, but she doesn't allow for those people who cross on red, and she also assumes that everyone takes the same length of time to cross. So what do they think of each other's models? Nikki, what do you think about this idea of good behaviour, that is, people don't cross on red?
Well, can I say for a start, I don't think it's a question of good behaviour, because I think people have a perfect right to cross whenever there's a gap in the traffic. But given that, I think the assumption that everyone does only cross when there's a green light rather distorts the results of the model, because it means that pedestrian delay is going to be modelled quite a lot greater than it is in practice. And in fact, vehicle delay will be somewhat greater as well, because if you assume that every pedestrian comes up, presses the button and only crosses when the light's green, it means that the signal cycles are going to be that bit shorter than if pedestrians came up and took a random gap and didn't bother to cross it, to press the button.
Carol, what do you think about this assumption of a uniform rate of arrival?
Yes, I wouldn't agree with that, actually. The only case where I think it might be applicable is where vehicle flows are very heavy, in which case another assumption that Nikki has made about the crossing being cleared every cycle, I think wouldn't be effective there. I'm not very happy about this assumption.
This is the assumption about no queuing?
That's right, there's no queuing after each cycle. I would expect with large vehicle flow rates that you would have a reasonable amount of queuing the next cycle, in which case you've got a lot of, you've underestimated the delay by assuming that the crossing is clear.
Surely you observed some queuing when you were doing your counts. I mean, you were taking your counts in a very busy area.
Yes, the Pelican Crossing itself wasn't causing any queues at the times that we were surveying it. Or in fact, at any other time that we've used those crossings, we've never found a queue. We sometimes got queues coming back from a mini roundabout that was close, but I think that's a different question again. That's a question more of where the Pelican Crossing is situated in relation to the rest of the road layout.
And what are you going to do in the future in order to check out whether your models work?
In this moment, we're hoping to do another experiment and look at a Pelican Crossing for various periods of the day. And we're going to feed this into our simulation and test whether we get the delays we should out of it. I'm also going to try and make the model a bit more realistic by putting in these variation in crossing times and the fact that they will misuse a crossing. And I'm also trying out the effect of the different arrival distributions, which I don't really think will make that much difference.
Nikki, are you going to test out your model? Have you got anything which really shows that the model works?
We've got a rough estimate. We timed 48 people how long their delays were. And on average, it agreed fairly well with what we'd observed. But that only says that the assumptions, if anything, cancel themselves out. It doesn't say that the model is perfect, and it doesn't mean to say it would work in different conditions particularly well.
So it seems that neither of the models have really been tested yet. And so we have to come down to the point that we've got different opinions about the validity of the suppositions within each model, and we don't know yet really whether each model works. But what they both agree upon is that the DOE assumptions about the criteria for installing pelicans rather than zebras, or even for setting the timings of the pelican sequence, are not correct. You should be in a position now, knowing all the suppositions, the limitations of each model, to try and make some value judgment about which model contains the most drastic suppositions.
Sundials are simple, familiar objects, so it may come as some surprise to discover the subtleties of their design, based as it is on an ancient mathematical model. Keith Attenborough and Bob Tunnicliffe will cast new light on the sundial in the next programme for the Modelling by Mathematics course, which you can see in 3 weeks' time, that's 9:45 on Sunday, the 4th of April. The following programme for the second-level technology course in engineering mechanics deals with linkage mechanisms of the type used students have been analysing and building with home experiment kits.
Inequalities are curious things. They're not very important in themselves, but they often tend to come up as little bits in wider arguments. And then if you don't understand anything about them, you're going to get stuck. Well, for example, you wouldn't think they had anything to do with calculating logs. But in this program, we're going to show that, in fact, they do. We've set ourselves the task of calculating the log of 1.5 to the base 10 to 4 decimal places. But first of all, let me remind you of some of the things that we asked you to look at before the program. We asked you to look at this formula from Unit 7. It relates logs base 10 to logs base e. And the number e is what you get, surprisingly, when you add up these numbers. 1 plus 1, that's just 1 over factorial 1, plus 1 over factorial 2, and so on. It's about 2.718. Well, I hope you looked at these things because they'll be useful for the log 1.5 problem. And of course, we'll also need the rules for manipulating inequalities. Well, you might have come across them already in the unit, but we'll be going over them all again in this program in case you're not too clear about them.
Oh, that's enough of that. Why do you insist on watching all that stuff?
I am required to assimilate new data. It is part of my function.
Well, why don't you get on with some real work?
Acknowledged and agreed.
And do you have to make all that noise? It's bad enough sharing my room with a computer without having all that racket. What are you doing anyway?
I am marking assignment 2. And it wasn't my idea to use your room.
And what's wrong with your voice?
You tell me.
It must be your voice synthesizer again. You must be worried about something. Hold still.
Ah!
How's that?
Ah, that's better. But you are heavy-handed.
Oh, do stop moaning. What are you worried about, anyway?
Those students sending in their values of log 1.5. It's me who has to check them all.
You're very good at that sort of thing. You won't have any trouble with log 1.5. What? What's wrong?
I don't know what it is.
What?
I don't know the value of log 1.5.
Well, why don't you work it out the way the students are supposed to do it?
I don't have a formula.
Oh, that's easy. Let's see. Yeah, it's in here somewhere. Yes, here we are. Look. Now, ready? Log 1 plus t equals t minus t squared over 2 plus t cubed over 3 minus t to the 4th over 4.
Slow up, slow up.
All right, for your benefit, I'll say it slowly. Punch it up on your monitor and I can check if you've got it right. It's log 1 plus t equals t minus t squared over 2 plus t cubed over 3 minus t to the 4th over 4, and so on.
How do I write and so on?
That's just 3 dots.
Just 3 dots. And so on.
Yeah, look, it just means that you take as many terms as you need to get the sort of accuracy that you want. You know, in your case, you want 4 places of decimals, so you just keep going until the first 4 places of decimals stay the same.
What value of t shall I take?
Oh, you're gormless. Look, let's make it really easy for you. Let's put x equal to 1 plus t, so that t is equal to x minus 1. Then you get log x, punch it up, log x equals x minus 1 minus x minus 1 squared over 2 plus x minus 1 cubed over 3, and so on. There, now even you can put x equals 1.5 in something like that.
I may not have a high IQ, but I can do anything if you give me the formula, and I work for my living.
Well, I've given you the formula. Go on and do it then.
0.5 minus 0.125 plus 0.0467 minus 0.01516 plus 0.00625 minus 0.0260 plus 0.00122 minus 0.0049 plus 0.0022 minus 0.0010.
Ah, that's better. Now I'm ready for the students.
What answer did you get?
0.4055.
Let's have a look. Oh, yes. Yes, you took 12 terms and got 0.4055. Oh, wait a minute. There's something wrong with that.
What do you mean wrong? If the formula's right, the answer is right.
No. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, look, I'm ever so sorry. That formula, it's for log E, not for log 10.
Now you tell me. You're no use to anyone. You're confusing me more than ever. You are confusing me.
Don't panic. Look, all you've got to do is to remember that formula that chap was talking about. I'll say it slowly for you, and you can punch it up on the monitor again. Look, it was log x to the base 10 equals log x to the base e divided by log 10 to the base e.
I don't see how that formula helps.
Well, look, you've just calculated log 1.5 to the base e. You've only got to work out log 10 to the base e, and you've done it. Should be very easy for you.
You mean use the adding up formula again?
Yeah, the formula for log x. But wait a minute, there's a...
No, don't worry. I've got the formula. I can do it. Now, don't interfere. I can do it if you don't interfere. Don't interfere. Don't interfere.
9 minus 40.5 plus 1243 minus 1,640.25 plus 11,809.8 minus 88,563.5 plus 683,781.
did try to tell you.
But the numbers went mad. I cannot cope with mad numbers. I cannot cope with mad numbers.
Don't panic. Calm down, calm down. Let's see what happened. Yes, you see, look, that formula's all right, but it doesn't work for all values of x.
Then the formula's not all right.
Well, it is really. Look, there's the formula for log 1 plus t, and you need mod t less than 1. Now, your nice easy formula has got x minus 1 in place of t, and that means you're going to have mod x minus 1 less than 1. So there are going to be some exceptions, I expect.
Exceptions? But why can't I calculate log 10?
Well, 10 might be an exception. Look, let's solve the inequality mod x minus 1 less than 1, and then we can see if 10 lies in the solution set.
Inequality? Inequality? I don't understand inequalities. All I understand is formulae that work.
Look, let me do it for you. Look, it shouldn't be too bad. Look, here's the inequality. Mod x minus 1 less than 1, right? Now that means that that number lies between minus 1 and 1. Now, all we need are some little rules for manipulating inequalities.
Excuse me.
Yeah?
That chap on television.
Yeah?
He was talking about inequalities. I've great faith in him. He doesn't talk about exceptions. I'm going to switch him on.
Well, so much for manipulating algebraic expressions involving inequalities. The trouble with me is I usually forget in a few days' time which way around the signs go in any particular example. But there is one beautiful general result which includes all the rules as special cases. And we can lead up to this by using graphs. Let's start with an easy straight line example. Whatever values, positive or negative, we take for A and B, as long as A is less than B, we find that A plus C is less than B plus C. Now, let's look at a negative C. The rule still holds for any values of A and B. So that's the first easy rule. We can add a constant to each side of an inequality without disturbing it. Oh, and I'm using this arrow as a shorthand for implies that. Now, what about the awkward rule when we want to multiply an inequality by a constant? This time, we can use another simple graph. X maps to kx. For this positive value of k, we have A less than B implies Ka less than Kb. What about other values of k? The inequality is preserved for all positive k.